The Browning double automatic shotgun. Such a cool shotgun, but with so little information available about it. Today, I'm going to show you how to disassemble this, the bolt on the double automatic shotgun. So here it is, the bolt out of the Browning double auto. Getting it out of the shotgun is a little bit tricky in itself, but the focus of this video is how to disassemble this guy. It's kind of a puzzle. It's very different to take it apart, but it's actually not a strange bolt. It's got the standard bolt parts. It has a link here, and the link moves the locking block up and down. So this is what locks the bolt into place when you fire the shotgun. So you have the link that actuates that, and then it has a single extractor here. It's a right side extractor, and that's got some spring tension to it there. And then you can also see the firing pin. Hope you can see that. There's a firing pin down here in a firing pin channel. Right here, this is what the hammer would strike, the firing pin right there. And once the firing pin gets struck, you can see it'll come out the bolt face there. So that's how the bolt works in a nutshell, kind of similar to other shotgun bolts. But taking it apart is tricky. The key to starting to get this thing apart is actually getting this part off. And this does move back and forth. This part, it does move back and forth. And I think it's designed to do that during operation, I believe. And this part is called the locking block latch. And the way you take that off is make sure it's pulled all the way to the back. Then you look on the front here, and you can see this little spot right here. It's just enough room to get a small screwdriver into. And what you want to do is pry that out a little bit. So you're prying that out a little bit because underneath this, there is a nub that needs to clear past a little stop underneath of here. So what you want to do is pry that out slightly, not a lot, while you pull on this end. Let's see if I can do that on camera here. Yeah, it just got past that little nub there. And then it should just pull off. And there it goes. So this part is the locking block latch. And you can see the little nub here. And this little nub goes right into this channel here. This entire thing goes back and forth in this channel, and you can see where it gets so far back and it gets stopped by this little point here. So when we pried it, we just lifted this up a little bit and it was allowed to clear past there, and we were able to pull it off. So that is the first part to come off. That's fairly easy to get off. The next part is kind of tricky, and I hope it shows up here on camera. There is the firing pin, and you can see there's a plate back there. This plate right through here, it goes through. This is actually called the firing pin stop plate. And with this thing removed, this little leg went right into this square space here, keeping this plate in place. But now that we've removed the locking block latch, we can now take out the firing pin stop plate. It's a little bit tricky because you've got the firing pin that goes through it. So what you have to do is you have to push the firing pin in and get it on this side of the plate so you can pull the plate up. And of course the firing pin is going to shoot out at that point. So I kind of struggle through it. If you have a good way to do it, you know, maybe you know a better way to do it, but I just kind of have to struggle through it. You want to push it through push it through the other side, and then push up on this plate to get this plate to come out. So the firing pin just kind of springs underneath of it and is able to pop out. So I'll try it here and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to try it with a punch. So pushing it in, yeah, it's going to fall off a lot, but you're pushing it in. Okay, it looks like this needs to be pushed in a little bit more because it's getting stuck there. So pushing it in. Now it's through. Okay. Now I've got it. The firing pin is on the other side of the plate. It's under a lot of spring pressure, but it is on the other side of the plate, not going through the hole here. Let's see if that can come through on camera or not. Because here's the hole. The firing pin is pushed through and it's on the other side. So now we're going to pull this plate straight up and the firing pin is going to shoot out. So I need to be careful with that. So I'll just kind of have my hand here to make sure it's captured. So moving the plate up. Get a screwdriver here. Moving this plate up and waiting for that firing pin to shoot back. There. Firing pin, now the plate is clear. Plate is clear to move up and out. And the firing pin, oh, it just kind of fell out weird there, but the firing pin normally would just come straight back out. I had it captured, oops, let me get this out of the way. I had it captured so it didn't come shooting out, but it is now out. You can see when it's in the bolt, it's sitting in there like that, under spring pressure. So we take this out. To take it out, you get it on this side of the latch and then pull the latch up and it falls out. So, firing pin stop plate, and of course our firing pin and our firing pin spring. So we've got mostly apart now. The next step is very easy compared to that one, but there is a trick to it. Maybe you see it, maybe you're more clever than I, but it took me a while to figure out how to get this link off. If you think you're smart, turn off the tape or turn off the video, pause the video, and see if you can figure out how to get that link out. If you give up, here's what I found. There is a very curious hole here, right here, that seems to do nothing. There's no pin to drive out, there's just a hole there. And if you look on the other side, there's a big hole, right where the little hole is. So what you need to do is get this pin out. And the way you do that is, now that the firing pin's out, this guy can really bend around. So you bend him around, and if you look on this side, right in here, right in this hole, you can see a pin that can be pushed out. And the way you push that out is from the other side, in that little tiny hole. So we'll go back here to the tiny hole, and we'll put a punch in there, apply pressure. Then we look back on this side and kind of align where that pin would be coming through, and there it pops out. So that is the link pin. I'll pull this punch back out. That allows the link to come out, and also for the locking block to come out, and it comes out right on top. So now we have all our parts, almost all our parts. The link pin, and the locking block. And just a curious side note, Numrich in their part numbers has a different part number for the link for a ribbed barrel and the link for a non-ribbed barrel. I don't know why they would be different, but they do show different part numbers for some reason. Okay, that leaves us with one more piece to disassemble, and that is the extractor. And it's pretty straightforward. Let me zoom in just a little bit. It's pretty straightforward. You've got you've got the hole underneath right there. This hole right here. And you put a punch in there. This punch is actually a little bit small. It's the only one I have at the moment. You pound that out. It'll come out the top here, and then you can take out this extractor. Okay, there. I've been able to punch this pin out. That's actually, there it comes. The pin's completely out. You could, if you got about that far, you could stop pounding out and just leave it captured there if you want to. Happen to push it completely out there. So there's the extractor pin. And when I pull this out, this will become uncaptured, and this is free to pull out now. So carefully pull this out. Don't want to launch it. Careful with the spring. You don't want it to shoot across the room, but there it pulled out. So there is the extractor, and we're going to pull out the extractor spring, and there is another extra part you might not have seen, but there's inside the spring, there's a little pin. It's an important part. It's the extractor spring guide, and it goes inside the extractor spring. You need it. You can't really do without it, and you will see immediately why you need it when we go to reassemble this. But at this point, the bolt is completely disassembled. If you have not disassembled your bolt before, it's probably going to be pretty dirty. So I would recommend thorough cleaning, scraping all the grime and grit out of there. This one's pretty clean. I've had it apart before. Had to figure out how to take it apart for this video, and I cleaned it at that time. So this is your bolt laid completely bare. Next step is reassembly. Okay, to put this guy back together, we'll just go in kind of reverse order here. So the first thing we'll put back in is the extractor and the extractor spring and this whole assembly here. So the first step we need to do is get this spring guide back into the spring. And important step here, this spring with its spring guide, it can move back and forth underneath inside the spring. You want to keep it on this end. It's important because that is what keeps the spring straight. So we will make sure that this pin goes on this side. So let's, okay, slide around a little bit. Okay, so the spring guide is on this side, and we put it back into the bolt here, down the little channel. And a good thing to do is you can kind of keep it kind of upside down like this to make sure that guide doesn't come out. Now, if you got the guide pushed way back in there, it's way back up in this channel where it's not doing any good. Now, if you took the extractor at this point and you said, okay, I'll just put it in here, what you're going to do is force this spring to go down into that cavity. You don't really want to do it, but the spring would get pushed down into here. Not the end of the world, but you're going to have to get a little small screwdriver, a little pick or something, and then just kind of bend that spring and pop him back out. So that is why you make sure that the guide, the extractor spring guide, is on this end where it's doing some good, not down in here where it's not doing anything. Okay, so kind of keep it down, keep that guide down there, and then we just put the extractor here and kind of push the spring back. Ooh, look at that. It's trying to pop out of place. Push it back and in. And it lines up right here. So although it's in, it's not at its natural pivot where it's supposed to be. It's not at its pivot point. It actually needs to be closer to about there. That's where the pin will come through. So the next step is get this pin in here, and we need to push this back and push the pin down. Now your pin, this pin seems to be a little bit on the loose side. It'll be fine once it gets pounded in, but it can be difficult to line it up and pound something in all at the same time. So not a bad idea is take your punch, go under here, and push this back until it kind of seats into place. Now this punch is not big enough. To do that properly, you need a punch that is almost the same size as the pin. But that's one way to do it. I happen to have a pretty loose pin, so I think I'll be able to just push it down into place. So I'm going to push the extractor back about yay far and push the pin down. Yeah, there, wiggled it a little bit, and the pin went right through the extractor, just keeping it in place. Now my next task is to pound the extractor back into place, which it's not easy to do on camera. I'll try a little bit, but that part might get edited out. Okay, I've got the extractor completely back in place. Got the pin pounded in, just a little bit below the surface there, so that's looking good. And just want to make sure, just test it out a little bit, just make sure it's fine. So that's looking pretty good. And obviously, if all you need to do is replace the extractor, you don't need to take anything else out. Just the extractor is actually completely independent. Could have taken that out first, actually. So the next step is to get the locking block back into place. Pretty easy. That goes right in the top here. Slides right into place. And then the link goes in. It goes in like this, and you can see it goes right onto, it's right in there, and it rides right in there like that. Fits in, so there's a little notch for it, so it slides right in. The next part is to get the pin back into place, the link pin back into place. And it's just the reverse of taking it out. You need to do this kind of thing where you get this hole lined up, and you've got 3 different parts to line up. You've got the bolt itself, which is this, and then you've got the locking block and then the link. And then you need to get this pin through all 3. And it's not too bad. So of course the little bit wider end is going to be on this side, and that goes in like that. And with a little bit of wiggling, maybe a little bit of pushing, it's going to go right through. And once this moves back, it's completely captured. Because of the little skirt on the other side, it cannot fall out on this side. So that is the locking block and link back into place. The next part is the difficult part. Getting the firing pin out wasn't easy. Putting that firing pin back in is more difficult. So the first thing you do is you put the spring back onto the firing pin, and then this is going to go in through the back, and it's going to go in through the back. I'm going to take the spring off just to show you. It's going to go in through the back here, and then it's going to have to find the little channel, and then it's going to go out the front. You can see it poking out the front there a little bit. And actually, to clear the firing pin stop plate, kind of going in reverse. So we're going to have to get it past the firing pin stop plate and then get it to poke back out through that hole. And that's a little bit difficult with the spring in there because you're going to be under spring tension. So this, without the spring, this is going to have to go forward far enough, all the way that far forward, and the locking what is this called? The firing pin stop plate goes in, and then it's going to have to sneak back out through here. We need to, so I have to line up, and then the firing pin, let's see, should sneak back out there. Yeah, pops back out there. Of course, we have to do this. We have to do this with the spring in place, which is the tricky part. So we'll just kind of undo that. Get this here. Get the locking or the stop plate, firing pin stop plate. Go ahead and pull that out. And we'll get the firing pin back out. So now we get to do it with the spring. So the spring goes on. And then you need to be careful. You need to make sure you get in the channel. You can see this spring's a little bent here. I think at one point when I was putting it together, I was probably not quite careful enough, and I actually bent the spring a little bit. No worries, but I am going to put it on this side where it won't make any difference. And then put it in the back here. And try to get it into that channel. Before doing that though, here's the stop plate. I'm going to put the stop plate halfway in there. So now that it's halfway in there, when I get that firing pin far enough in, the whole trick is to push a firing pin under spring pressure far enough, push this plate down, and have the end of the firing pin pop out through here. So let's see how this goes. The first trick is making sure you are in that channel. Yeah, okay, it's in the channel. And let me get some pressure on it back here. Okay, it's in the channel. It's going to be hard to see, but with the spring pressure, you can see it popping out. Oops. Yeah, there it shot back out. So I'll get to start over again. But when you get it in the channel, you can see it popping out a little bit from here. And it should feel smooth. If you feel it hinking up, or if anything feels hinky, it's not good. Just slow down, readjust, and try getting it in there again. So here we go into the channel. And make sure you get the plate oriented correctly as well. When you put this plate back in, there's this notch, and this plate needs to be, okay, here we go. This plate needs to line up so there is this square notch. Remember, that's where this guy's going to go through. So you need to make sure you have the plate oriented like that. So take it out for now. The firing pin is going to go in there. This needs to be flat for it to be able to make it to the channel. Okay, I think that's pretty close. I think that's in the channel. So firing pin stop plate goes in. Yeah, that's in the channel there. I can feel it. I'm going to push this forward. Push this forward. And one thing that happens, there is a... Let's see, I'll zoom in here because this is the tricky part. If you can see on the firing pin, there's a little lip here. Probably what will happen is I'll get it far enough in there that it can catch on the lip. And at least then I don't have as far to push it through. So you're just going to have to work with it. Once you do it once or twice, it's probably won't be as bad, but you can watch me struggle through it here, and I've done it several times. So if it takes a while, that's normal. Okay, so I've got it. Yeah, it was in the channel. I might have to try a different tool. Keeps popping out. Let me try maybe a bigger punch here. Okay, it's feeling a little hinky, so it's not exactly lined up in the channel. So don't force it or you'll bend your spring like I did. There. Okay, now it's definitely in the channel. Put the pin on it. I've got it pushed in there. Ah, almost have it capture. Almost have it capture. Yeah, you can see it. It's right on this side of the plate. I just need to push it a little bit further. There. Phew. Oh, it popped out, and that sucker is in there now. That takes a little bit of working with to get that in there. But now it's back together, almost. One last part we have to put together. Back to the locking block latch, little puzzle piece that started it all. And this just goes in here like this, but you need to make sure that this is all completely lined up and it makes its nice little rectangle right there. Let's put this on here. Now I have found it requires a little bit of pressure to get it through this plate. It doesn't go in just lickety split. It requires a little bit of pressure to get through there. And then you saw this went through and it went over the little nub and latched itself back into place. So there it is, the double auto bolt, complete disassembly and reassembly. I cheated a little bit. I have two Browning double autos. This is actually from a different gun, and when you have something that's not so common, kind of like the Browning double auto, it's really nice to have two guns, because if you get into trouble with disassembly, you can look at your other gun and see how it's put together. It actually kind of saved my bacon on one issue I was having. But anyway, that's my video for the disassembly and reassembly of the bolt. If it helped you out at all, please leave me a comment. I would love to hear from any other double auto owners. There's not a lot of these guns out there. The people that own them love them, including me, and it would be really nice to hear from fellow double auto owners. All right, well, appreciate you watching.